Hello, and welcome to Friends for Life, a podcast of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod's Life Ministry. We're sharing the stories and insights of real people living out God's love for the people He's created. We hope you'll stick around and be our friends for life.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm your host, Steph Nuggebauer, here with my co-host and the director of LCMS Life Ministry, Deaconess Dr. Tiffany Manner. Our guests today are Penny Loughran and her dad, Pastor Kevin Loughran of St. Petersburg, Florida. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much, Steph. We're very happy to be here and happy to be with our good friend too, Deaconess. Good to see you.
Thanks for taking time to talk with our listeners and with me and Tiffany today. I am going to let you introduce yourselves, if you would. And listeners, in short time, you will see why Pastor and Penny are our newest friends for life. So if you could introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Penny. Well, the main reason why I'm on this podcast right now is because I was not sure the exact number here, but I was a preemie. So I was not born on my birthday. I was born before I was supposed to be, if that makes any sense.
How big were you when you were born?
3 pounds-ish.
Okay. Very good. And what happened to you?
And when I was like 3 days old, I had a plane plane. And that's why I have cerebral palsy.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, sweetie. All right. Well, I'm Pastor Loughran, Kevin Loughran. I'm the senior pastor at Grace Lutheran Church and School in beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida, where it's been doing nothing but raining the last few days. I have no idea where that's coming from because often we go day after day after day after day of sunshine. But Grace St. Pete's my third parish that I've served. However, I've been here for 16 years now. So I've been here for some time.
Well, and I can vouch for the beauty of Grace Lutheran Church and School in St. Petersburg, Florida. I've gotten to worship there several times. I actually got to know Pastor and become friends for life with him through the Concordia Deaconess Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then hadn't ever been at his place up until about a year ago. And now I've been there several times and have been able to meet Penny and get to know her a little bit, not a lot. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation to get to know Penny a little bit better. Because when I've been at church, there visiting my family, it's always been a little bit rushed when we're leaving. Yeah, Grace is a beautiful sanctuary, beautiful stained glass, but the people are just lovely.
Yeah, we're a little prejudiced, but we too really enjoy our people. We especially like our deaconess, by the way, who happens to be Tiffany's daughter. So we're blessed to have Tiffany's daughter, Deaconess Marissa, that serves there, her son-in-law, Andrew, and that, of course, her granddaughter, Clarice. And we've got a grandson on the way soon, too. So we're very excited. We're excited for you, for your entire family. Yeah.
Can't wait to be there soon and hold that little baby and have the baptism at Grace. We're not really talking about deaconesses today, but I mean, Grace has a distinction of having multiple deaconesses. I mean, you've had many over the years, but right now you've got a deaconess and an intern, so that makes Grace a pretty special church too. That they've got a lot of mercy ministry.
I don't think there are that many parishes that have 2 deaconesses. So we have a deaconess and a deaconess intern. So Deaconess May is there as well too, and she adds some spice beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Thank you so much for taking time again to be on with us. And Penny, you started off by sharing about your birth. You were born early and then with cerebral palsy. Penny, what language do you use to describe your range of abilities?
Well, I just simply say that other than being in a wheelchair, I really love anything that not being in the wheelchair people do. And I'm relatively normal despite, being in a wheelchair and having
CP.
CP.
Yep. Yep. So sometimes Penny will, as we may have just noticed there, sometimes she'll have just a little lag when she's talking. That's not the computer lagging on us. We've had a few technical difficulties already today, but rather we were told when she was born that she would never be able to walk or talk. That the bleeding in her brain had damaged those centers. However, in her particular case, a different part of the brain from normal has picked up the speech patterns. At least that's what the doctor described for us. So sometimes when she goes to talk, there's kind of a lag because she's using a different part of her brain for the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, actually. You've got an extra special brain that's able to pick up and do things that earthly physicians never anticipated. Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad I can talk because if I couldn't, that would be so frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, and she does have quite a lot to say, so it is a blessing. It was very fascinating. When she was about 2.5, they sent a school psychologist to evaluate her for an early intervention program that she would be a part of, right? And because she couldn't speak at that time, he brought pictures. And after about 20 minutes, he got frustrated, and he looked at my wife and he said, "You didn't tell me she knew how to read." So we didn't know.
Because I couldn't talk at that point. How could they know that I knew?
Because you were reading the names of the things that he was showing you on the picture.
Yeah.
So he had to come back with a
Wow.
different set of stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like, you're too smart for what I brought with me. I need to I need to bring more advanced. Wow.
Exactly. We were amazed. And even once she started talking in earnest, she was probably around 4-ish. And she had a full range of vocabulary that a 4-year-old would have. It wasn't she didn't start with the babbling stage or any of those things. She just went right to sentences and boom.
Penny, of course, you belong to Grace because that's where your dad is a pastor. And how has Grace opened its arms to you and embraced your various abilities too?
Well, I actually went to Grace has a school, and I actually went there for middle school, and I was in every year they had to a 2-year version of a well-known Broadway musical. And Mrs. Tippett always made sure I had a part in it. So I'm a musical theater, for lack of a better word. So that was nice.
Yeah, she had an especially memorable role during The Wizard of Oz. She was the tornado. They put they put streamers on the back of her wheelchair, used a black light, and one of the kids actors on stage went around and around with her, and it really looked as if she were the lady in the rocking chair in a tornado. It was pretty clever. Yeah.
That is so cool. I would have loved to see that.
What were some other things that
And trying to remember that was so long ago. Oh, oh, oh. Can you remember?
well, think of how about the physical surrounding of the campus? Is it pretty accessible, would you say?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
I mean, even the sanctuary, how is it to move around the sanctuary?
It's pretty easy as long as I don't walk into the pew.
Right. So Penny operates a motorized chair. So you're able to come up for communion yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when she was going to school and singing in the choir, our choir director built a ramp so she could get up, not all the way up to the balcony, but when the scholars, the young kids would sing up front, the choristers, she could wheel right up into the staging area, the sanctuary area, the first step of that, and be next to her choir mate. I'd say overall, everybody's done a pretty good job. She even ran the mile.
Yeah.
While she was going to school.
Oh, and what about now as someone who's, moved on from Grace Lutheran School? What about with the life of the church? How are you connected to the body of Christ and the life of the church at Grace Lutheran?
Well, I volunteer a lot. Like sometimes I'll even, if I get to church, even about early, so early enough, I'll even greet people that are coming in, or I volunteer for VBS, and then I not recently because of some autoimmune struggles that I've had, but my mom used to be part of the mission outreach board, and they have an annual Christmas dinner, so I would help with that. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
And Penny, do you enjoy singing still in the choir?
Yeah, hard because I'm not really sure what kind of choir needs, if that makes sense.
Well, getting up to balcony is difficult, but she has sung in choir, right? When they're downstairs.
Yeah, they do have what's that cool where they go around the
Yep. They have this week. Grace has a tradition on Christmas Eve of doing a Tempest carol where the joy choir, which are the women in the choir, are quadrant off in the four corners of the church. And they sing Angels We Have Heard on High, and then they move from station to station holding candles. And Penny's been a part of that several times.
I was there last year for that, and it was beautiful, and I was like, oh, I had goosebumps. Yeah.
Penny, then I assume that did you have confirmation class with your
Yeah.
dad or with a different pastor at Grace?
That was
Okay.
that
And what was that like?
very fun. It was weird, like you didn't know the thing with that. Now he's like and interacting with him in a semi-formal situation and knowing he's like, yeah, that was kind of awkward.
I think I've heard PK say that before. Okay, so here's the real question for any pastor's kid. Does your dad answer you faster at church if you say dad or if you say pastor?
Probably dad?
Okay.
Yeah.
Tiffany, what did the statistics show?
I have to give it to Pastor Loughran because most of the time we hear PKs say, "Oh, I have to say pastor to get his attention at church." When we're at church.
Yeah, it's that might even bleed a little bit into what it's like to be a parent of a child that's abled differently, right? I'm pretty attuned to hearing Penny when she calls for me. So I would wonder what her siblings might say if you ask them the same question.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And speaking of siblings, do you have 3 older siblings, Penny?
That's a bit of a loaded question. Okay, if you count like legal siblings, there's 4 of us. There's me, and then there's my biological brother, John, and then there's my adopted brother, Matt, and then my adopted sister, Steve. But there's a bunch of foster kids that mom that I never legally adopted per se, that still consider them mom and dad. So really, total, I'm probably the 21st of like 20.
What? Yeah.
There's no really time number like that.
Wow.
Wow. So then that would mean that, Pastor, you and your wife have had 16 foster children as well,
Yes.
correct?
Besides our, I'm 16, 17. Some of them were very brief, but we probably had a dozen that were with us for at least a year. Not at the same time, but even our 2 adopted, our 2 legally adopted children, Justine and Matt, were a bit older when we adopted them. They were foster children that became adoptable. Actually, we knew Matt was adoptable when he first came to live with us. I think he was about 7. So he and John, it's as if they're twins. They're within months of each other. Yeah. So, and they relate to each other kind of like twins would relate to one another. Yeah, she and Matt were always especially close, particularly when she was younger. I don't know if it means anything, but it was really interesting when Penny was born because of the premature birth. John was actually out of town, visiting with my mother in Arizona. Everybody would take turns in the summer months, going to Arizona. So it happened to be John's turn to be there. And the first one to hold Penny other than I was Matthew. Because Kirsty, it was a C-section. Kirsty was stuck in the hospital in Sheboygan. Penny was in the hospital in Milwaukee, an hour away. So Kirsty spent 3 or 4 days still in the hospital before she could actually go see her daughter. So Matt was the first one though. Matt actually gave his mom instructions on how to handle a preemie. It was really funny.
Oh, well, see, my husband and I just had a baby about 3 months ago now. And, they talk about kangaroo care and how important that is for little babies to be held right away when they're born and how that's bonding. And I bet there's something to that, that Matt was one of the first people to hold Penny, that they really
Yeah.
bonded that way. That's very special. It's such a blessing for our children, of course, to have each other, and can already see they're young, but we can already see the friendships forming between them and how they kind of sharpen each other or sometimes irk each other also.
Of course.
With that, the blessing of siblings, how has your family been affected by, Penny, your diagnosis, and how has that opened your siblings' eyes to be more attentive, like Matt is, to be more caring and to realize where help is needed, not just at home, but in outside of the home too. So all in all, how has your family changed after Penny's been born?
I would suspect at first this was really pretty difficult on Penny's older siblings. The boys were 13, just turning 14, so seventh going into eighth grade. Justine was in high school. Um, and kids at that age really still need their parents. It's easy to think, oh, they're older, they're more independent, but there's a lot going on for them at that time. And of course, in the first 2 months of Penny's life, we were trucking to Milwaukee every day, an hour away, trying to balance and juggle all of their needs with her needs. I would think
Yeah, we're once always ready. I'm American. Now that going through that same phase of life that they were in when I was actually born, I could sympathize and I could think, wow, they must have been, I don't know if that was the right word, but they must have had sort of resentment that they had to work out because all of they're going through all their teenage angst and all of a sudden I show up and mom and dad attention divided now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Having said that, though, particularly the boys who were much more involved in Penny's care than Justine was, because she was a junior, senior in high school and all, kind of much more independent. Both of my boys definitely were very caring, at least outwardly, to their little sister, and in general. They tend to be people who are particularly concerned about those who might need a bit of help. Um, uh, they're much more understanding. They're in their 30s now, but they're both much more understanding of different people, diverse people, those things that you would expect for young men that age. So I would attribute a lot of that to having Penny as a younger sister, and they were pretty good about doing stuff with you. We have to ask a lot of times. Now we learned that in some cases this was because as 16, 17-year-olds, it meant they got a nice parking space because they had a disabled person in the car, and and that girls enjoyed when they had a little sister in tow, but they still really treated their sister pretty nicely.
At a young age, when your family, this is what you've been given in Penny's diagnosis, Penny, this is what you've been given in life. My little ones who don't have a lot of people around them who are of different abilities at this time, what's the best way to teach them how to care and be kind and to open their eyes for helping others of different abilities?
It's very interesting because, now our children have children. So Penny is around younger nieces and nephews frequently. And it is fascinating to see the way in which they relate to her and how they're learning, they're learning how to relate to a person with a disability. Our youngest granddaughter, Lily, really is fascinated with Penny. I mean, Lily would get up in Penny's lap. Lily always wants to be wherever Penny is. Lily will tell you right away if Penny needs something. I think John's son Kevin and you have a pretty cool little bond too. So Kev's in fourth, going into fifth. He's actually in, how can that be? He's in fifth grade now. But Kevin and Kyla, John's two kids, have lived on and off with us. John was in the Navy, so at times they would be with us. especially when he got out of the Navy, that transition time, they were with us for a few years. Um, Kevin, especially the two of them, Penny and Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can
What
see
are
a
some of
smile
the
on
things
your face.
you could tell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the things you and Kevin would do for one another?
Well, sometimes, and I really miss it now because I'm stuck on the level of Candy Club. And he's really good at that game. And he's all the way
Candy Crush.
Georgia or whatever it is. And I'm like, man, if only you were here right now. Well, to be the girl, because I'd be like, hey, Kevin, get over here. Stuck on the level.
You'd like his help beating the level in
Yeah.
Candy Crush. I understand.
So, and then Kevin's older sister, Kyla, we had gotten to the point over the last year where she and Penny would babysit one another. So they were quite the team.
Yeah.
Right. Penny, obviously we think would provide the common sense, but Kyla, the mobility. So, they could make dinner together. They would turn TV stations together, those types of things. They really, she's got a really sweet relationship with the grandkid.
No, Penny, do they asked you questions about your abilities and what you're able to do or what it's like to be you?
Yeah. But younger children who I'm around who aren't in my family who ask me those kinds of questions, and I don't really know how to answer them. That kind of awkward.
Because this is your reality, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Penny's Penny. So it's hard for her to
explain
Mhm.
my disability to others, if that makes sense.
She also had classmates in school for 4 years at Grace because she came to Grace in 5th grade. Our plan when we moved from Sheboygan to Florida, Penny was a kindergartner. And our plan had been to keep her in public school up until middle school because that's where she got her services. That's where she would get speech therapy, physical therapy, those things.
Yeah.
But it turns out Wisconsin is better for that stuff than Florida would be. Medical care is better here and more accessible here. But sir, right?
Yeah. To say I will help with them. Service like for people, Wisconsin is way.
Yeah, way better. So we brought Penny over to Grace sooner because, as it turned out, our phys ed teacher could provide more of what you would consider physical therapy than she was getting in the public school. She had good friends in the public school, but she had, how a Lutheran school is. It's the same kids, the same 20 or so kids year after year. They just adapted to her being in class. She became a duty. Somebody had Penny duty for the week where they would be because at that time she was in a pushchair. Or somebody would be her scribe. And I found out in high school how difficult that job is. We actually, Florida does have a very nice aid program so that kids are able to attend private schools, parochial schools, Christian schools. Really good. And if a person has a disability, actually, there was more money there than our tuition was. So we were able to hire a classroom aide for her And we actually hired one of our former students who was a college kid. And why don't you tell Steph about that?
And through that war, I actually got to be really good friends. And now, even though I'm graduating and she's married, like we've been to race games, so, and we even went to Applebee's to get for her and her mom, dad, to celebrate me too. What the one even that pretty cool.
And actually, she teaches at our school. She's our art teacher at our school because of that. So Penny has impacted people's lives pretty significantly. What did some of your teachers from high school say about you when you graduated?
I have to, because of my disability, I have to do an exit IEP in order to close my eye file. No, I get there and everyone's like, you changed the game and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is awkward. I said thank you, but on the inside, I was like, this is making me feel kind of awkward right now.
But they said to a person they would never look at a person with a disability the same again.
Well, that makes me think a lot of people do feel awkward when they aren't around people with a disability often. Do you have any advice for listeners who might not be around people with intellectual or developmental disabilities?
Well, typically remember that just because someone has any sort of disability, that we're just as much of a human as non-disabled people are, and just make us feel included and feel like you're not disrespecting us and putting us down just because we're in a wheelchair or have autism or whatever the case may be.
That's really wise advice. God made you. You are valued and loved by your Lord. And that's where, so many parents of people who have disabilities will say, but my child is perfect. My child is perfect. And they mean by that they're valued and loved. And so yeah, everyone can learn to interact with people who have a full range of abilities in that way, as someone created and loved by God.
Absolutely. You when you parent a disabled child, you truly recognize what it means to be human. It means that you have a soul. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're the football star or the this or the that, but rather you have a soul. You have a savior who loves you. You're made in God's image. Penny has a pretty good sense of humor, to include her in jokes, even to tease her, like you would tease anybody else, like any dad with the bad dad jokes,
Yeah, I love those.
I mean, all of those things, all of the things that we think of as a part of the human experience, she experiences. And so,
although your comment about not being the football star, let's not forget that Jim Abbott only has the left hand and he's moving over to the victory. Just saying.
you're right. Yeah, I stand corrected. Yeah.
Sounds like you're a baseball fan, Penny,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, but you bring up a good point. People have all kinds of abilities like throughout their entire lifespan, and sometimes there's skills and gifts that are given, and others that are developed. But we're never, any one of us, born with a full and complete range of abilities that stays the same throughout life. So I love how you said you never know.
Well, and that's something I think Penny hopefully agrees with. We would never limit her, right? I mean, Penny would say she'd want to do this and she'd want to do that. We'd figure out a way to do it, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you want to limit to anybody, really. So, yeah, the normal is the normal.
Like, for example, back in I guess I was in how old was I when we went to that one Ted Williams thing and the Pete Wells one?
Really about 10. Yeah.
Pete Wells was like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Penny has made friends with, because of where we typically sit at Rays games, she's made friends with some of the Rays TV announcers. They know her by name. They'll stop by. They might sit with us for an inning and chat about baseball. People have bothered her to try and get her to start writing a baseball blog.
Do you think you would do that, Penny? Write a baseball blog?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Yeah, what do you think you see yourself doing?
What do you mean by
As you go through college and graduate for a job?
last year class was like psychology, so something either wait. Wait, later doing what? I don't know if they have what.
They have sports psychologists.
Yeah, need like one of those. Cause I really like works and when I find psychology interesting, so finding some way to kind of like combine the two.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a little shift for her but she consistently for some time has talked about being a counselor or involved in psychology in some way.
And Penny, are you in college right now?
We're getting there. We're trying to figure out the logistics of like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, besides the cerebral palsy, when Penny was right towards the end of her sophomore year of high school, she came down with this really vicious autoimmune disorder called Candace. A lot of people have not heard of it. I hope and pray you never experience it, but it firsthand.
What? So gets let go. It like moved into this like weird like I don't really know how to explain.
So it's called PANDAS. It's pediatric autoimmune neuropsychotic disorder associated with strep. Your body doesn't realize that you're over the strep throat. So it acts like encephalitis for her. So she gets pressure from the brain. So she'll have neuropsychotic symptoms that if she were able to, quite frankly, she could hurt herself. So that's been a blessing in many ways that she's not fully able physically. And we keep it under control. They keep it under control with IV treatment and with steroids. So it's created a lot of trouble with COVID. the autoimmune compromisation is, you have to be very careful with her.
Yeah.
So that's delayed the start of college because we have to be very careful about being around people, number one. And number two, she needs services for college, and Voc Rehab, who she would work through, is they're definitely feeling the employment pinch. So I think you've had maybe 3 or 4 Voc Rehab counselors in the last 2 years. They keep leaving.
Well, thinking that period of time would have like what you said, you 4 different people as my folk we have counselors. So that's kind of difficult.
But she was in a college level program in high school. So she does have a semester of more than a semester of credits.
At least, I'm not sure how many clinics I have per se, but I have at least a semester locked out, I think.
Yeah, you do.
So that's good.
That's great. That's great. Penny and Pastor, we have the LCMS website. In addition to just our LCMS website, we also have a number of RSOs who provide, services and resources for families within the church who have members who have an intellectual or developmental disability. And as I was reading through, a common thing that I read across websites in regards to the church is that people and the families who care for them have a very low percentage of church attendance, which would translate to they somehow, in some way or another, don't feel welcomed or comfortable or cared for within a congregational setting, or it's just hard to walk through the door. And so, what can the church do better to serve families and to serve people with disabilities so that that's not something that has to cross anyone's mind?
It is true that it's a low percentage of people with disabilities that attend church regularly. What do you think the church could do differently to help change that?
I think just letting people know that are disabled that, hey, we're here for you and we understand your situation and we can.
Yeah, this is going to be another question that's going to be tough for her because, again, Penny's normal is Penny's normal. So she's she's a good church attender. So it's probably going to be hard for her to think of why, and she's always been very welcome at the church.
So it's hard for me to think why other people would have that. Because like Dad was saying, I personally don't have that. Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
But I'm thinking through this, and I'm not surprised by it. I think you see oftentimes in congregations, the people that you see in the pews are similar to the people that you see up front serving, and similar to the other staff members in the congregation, right? So for example, at Grace right now, we're very blessed. We have a very good young organist. We have these deaconesses that are, that let people know that we value women. You're seeing that even though we have 2 grandfather-like pastors, you're seeing a larger group of young adults in our congregation than we've seen in a long, long time because they see young adults valued. I think in many ways, a congregation that clearly values disabled people, you're likely to see more of them there. So in our parish, people have, both in Sheboygan when I served there, and now here at at Grace, you'll see some disabled people there because they, when they see the pastor hugging a little girl in a wheelchair and realize that's his daughter, they realize it's a safe place for them.
Yeah. Guess what with them saying when other people realize that, hey, this pastor has a child who disabled, maybe I feel comfortable here. And then they start going. What? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm remembering when I worked for a recognized service organization, an RSO, like Steph mentioned, that provided some resources and support for people with disabilities. That a lot of times we would be talking to a congregation who would reach out and be saying, "Oh, we've got someone who has this disability or this diagnosis, and we're thinking we ought to do this for them. We think if we could just do this one thing, that would make it easier for them to come to church." And my first question to them was always, "Well, did you talk to the individual? Did you talk to that person and ask them if they wanted whatever accommodation you're thinking of making, whether it's redesigning the building or putting in something?" And most of the time they would say, "Oh, no, we just decided that this would be a good thing for them." And I feel like, well, you know what? The people who understand the disabilities best are the ones who are living with it. So my first suggestion is that you have a conversation with the individual, with their family members, and say, how can we best support you? How can we best love you? What do you need to make coming to the worship services or the Bible classes, or the confirmation classes easier? You tell us what you'd like. And sometimes they would say like, "Oh, could someone relocate some of these tables so it's easier for my chair to get around?" And it didn't have to be the plan that was, I don't know, maybe some committee or individuals were cooking up without talking to them. So I always said, just have a conversation, just, be the body of Christ, talk to one another and figure out what the needs are. Because if we're assuming and guessing and coming up with things, we're doing it not with the people who matter most, who have the most wisdom and knowledge around this.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that people sometimes assume that I need certain things that aren't necessarily the types of accommodations that I actually need. And then I get to the area and I'm like, "I'm glad that you made this accommodation for me, but it's still difficult for me to use this certain thing." Because you didn't actually listen to what I want. You didn't actually ask me, "Hey, Penny, how can we fix this so that you can use it?" I see your point. Like, not people who have that certain disability first before you go thinking, "Well, I think we should do this." And then maybe more disabled people would come to our church. That's not how it works. The thing you should do is you should somehow survey disabled people in your area, not like force them to call, but be like, "What's your name?" If you're not, don't like come on phone or whatever, but friendly, nice way to say, what accommodations can we make so that more disabled people feel comfortable going to our church, in your opinion?
Very nice.
Instead of just really thinking, I think people with disability would feel more comfortable going to our church every day. Why, see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And see, I'm learning along with our listeners. My husband is a pastor and we have a smaller congregation, but I love hearing this so that we know how we can be welcoming and actually to ask you, Penny, what you need and how you need to be served so that you feel welcomed and that you can worship with the body of believers. You give us permission to ask that of you. And pastors listening too, ask family members, ask Penny herself. Now, Pastor and Penny, you have given us a glimpse into what your beautiful congregation at Grace is like and how they love and support your family and love and support the family of believers together. And that's, in part what it means to be a pro-life congregation, or a congregation that looks at life the way that Jesus looks at life. And that's beautiful.
Well, thank you very much, Steph. We appreciate that. We've been very blessed, and so all we enjoy doing best is sharing that love of God and Christ Jesus with everyone, recognizing how valuable each and every life is to Him. What could be better?
Yes. Now, maybe I can ask you both and you can answer individually. But Pastor and Penny, what does it mean to be a child of God?
Oh, what a great question. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I think you should go first. You're the one who's the cemetery degree, not me.
So she's going to correct me then after I give that answer, right?
Okay,
But-
let's scrutinize this, Penny.
Yeah,
Here
let's see what we get out of this. But really, to be a child of God means to be loved by Him so much that you recognize and realize, as awesome as it is, that if you were the only person that He ever created, He still would have sent His Son into the world to die for you, for me. It's an unbelievable thing to me to think that the eternal Son of God would do that.
And I think you actually make the same point in your sermon for this weekend. If I
Oh, you overheard me.
you at least had one person listening, Pastor.
but I agree with you. Just recognizing, realizing that God loves me enough that He would send Jesus to die so that I could have eternal life. And there's so many people who unfortunately don't realize that yet, and just reaching out, helping those people and being a good, friendly neighbor, like acting the most like Jesus that a simple human being can. That to me is what being a child of God means.
Beautiful.
Beautiful confession. And what a way to witness to your friends, Penny, too, with what you've said, that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came into the world to save sinners. It's beautiful. Amen. Thank you, both Pastor and Penny, for joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome, Steph, and also Tiffany. It's been wonderful visiting with you. Well worth all of the little niggling technical issues that we had to start with.
We did. We endured a little bit prior to this recording, and I thank you for that too. And of course, Tiffany, thank you for joining me. Do you have any resources that you can point our listeners to?
Yeah, in LCMS Life Ministry, we get a lot of questions about teaching the faith to people who have a range of abilities. And certainly on our website on lcms.org, we've got a whole slew of resources, some connections to our recognized service organizations like Voice of Care or Able Light that offer curriculum and confirmation instructional materials for people who have disabilities. And so, you could go to lcms.org and just type in disability in the search bar. Had a task force that has come up also with assessment tools for taking a look at your congregation and saying, how is it that you can engage with families and with people who have disabilities and see what they need from your church, how accessible is your church. So certainly go to lcms.org and find some of those resources and connections to other Lutheran Church Missouri Synod recognized service organizations that may have some things that might be helpful. We're also always here to just engage with people directly. Probably the easiest way is for people to email first, and we can have a phone conversation, or even connect them with really experienced pastors like Pastor Loughran, who could share advice. I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, Pastor, but I imagine that if I were to call you up someday and say, "Hey, would you talk to a pastor at another church?" That you'd probably be willing to do that. So. If folks would find the personal connection to be helpful, email us at lifeministry@lcms.org, and we can help you engage with a network of the body of believers and help you to really in your congregation be welcoming to people with disabilities.
Thank you. And thank you, of course, to our listeners for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a review. And don't forget to click the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss out on upcoming episodes. New episodes drop twice each month. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram as Friends for Life LCMS. And finally, listeners, we want to hear from you. Do you have an idea about a guest you'd like to hear from or a topic you want talked about? Email us at friendsforlife@lcms.org. We want to hear from you about what you want to hear about when it comes to issues of life.
Thanks for joining us. Friends for Life is a podcast that introduces listeners to life issues by introducing them to friends who stand for life.